Welcome to A Deeper Dive, a podcast that delivers an in-depth study of the truth found in God's Word with Paul Ciotta. Paul brings his creative perspective through the eyes of a theologian, challenging you to live your faith. Now, let's take the plunge. Here's Paul.
One does not have to go very deep into our society to be exposed to hate speech. And it's manifested and permeates through our world today. It is an epidemic. It is repulsive. It is personal. It is institutional. It is cultural. This is an ugly time. But it doesn't start at the tongue, or a post on X, or with a cranky neighbor, or a politician's news conference, or an anonymous message to an unsuspecting victim. Consider the vicious, malicious, harsh, mean, cruel, spiteful, vindictive, abusive, and hurtful statements you have read or heard just today. So far, they come from everywhere, potentially from everyone. Derogatory language is the sewerage outflow of hate. This verbal pollution is targeted both at a person and people and spreads its poison in every direction. Name-calling, pejorative labels, backhanded compliments, insults, mocking, taunting, defamation, and let's not ignore falsehoods, because falsehoods have another name: lies. The communication channel doesn't matter. There are more subtle forms of hate. Dismissive body language like head-turning, eye-rolling, and those hand gestures. Just use your imagination. Or the silent treatment, which speaks volumes. Every human being has the capacity to hate and express it by directing that hate toward others. The innocent become a target for hateful disrespect. The words and actions not only offend, but often influence others to pile on their hate, or turn and reject the influencer, using more hateful language. The goal is hurt. The collateral damage triggers more hate. Hate speech could be driven by fear, insecurity, past trauma, or a sense of feeling threatened or defensive. It's a tool for power and authority, a coping mechanism to deaden inner pain, helplessness, or shame. It could be behavior learned through our families, peer group, media influence, or examples of our political leaders, personalities, and others we admire. Hate speech becomes more ingrained and natural over time. Hate speech is becoming our national language, replacing civility and understanding. Now, we might think we have some right to be hypercritical of those who look different, act different, hold differing opinions or perspectives, come from a different part of the world, talk differently, vote differently, basically different. Not in the same tribe, inferior. This thinking highlights an arrogant and myopic view, an attempt at creative insults that draws fresh blood and more hate. Christians are not exempt from hate and hateful language. One only needs to sit through a church business meeting, budget discussion, a boring sermon, or an off-key singer. The divisiveness in the undertones of the political and cultural circles we travel in and throughout seep right through, making our church experience more like a vulgar demonstration of exploitation and a horrible representation of what Jesus taught. Several years ago, I was teaching an adult Sunday school class around Election Day, and I asked these mature Christians, "Can a liberal Democrat be saved?" The response was more visceral than biblical. Salvation is not dependent on one's political declaration. Rather, the declaration that Jesus is the Messiah. Some in the class didn't think so. This is all about the heart, the centerpiece of our very being. The prophet Jeremiah was inspired to remind us self-righteous and misguided sinners in Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? As the Pharisees, who were famous for judgmental leanings and ruling from a self-focused viewpoint, were chastising Jesus and his followers, who apparently upset them by breaking tradition and not washing their hands, the Lord summed it up like this. In Matthew 15:17 through 19, he says, "Don't you see that whatever enters the mouth through the stomach and then out of the body? But things that come out of the mouth come out of the heart, and these make a man unclean. For out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, and slander." But if the world is following a pattern of hate, personal transformation is the only answer. The Apostle Paul writes in Romans 12:2, "Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." And what is God's will? Well, the Bible is full of the answer, but it's again Jesus making the simple become ultra simple. One of them Pharisees asked, "Which is the greatest commandment?" In Matthew 22:37 through 40, he answers, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments." That Pharisee then follows up with the question, well, who is my neighbor? And Jesus shares the parable of the Good Samaritan, who helped a mugged Hebrew traveler who was rejected by his own kind. The hated Samaritan defied the culture to love his neighbor. And the key word here is love. Now you might be thinking, I can't do anything about the hate that's out there or the toxic language. And you're kind of right. Because any change has to start with you and me. You see, we were all created by God in his image. Genesis 1:27. But if something is upsetting you about that other person, well, understand that's how God created them. The same way he created you and me. So if we choose to hate still, we might satisfy our self-absorbed needs. But that doesn't last. If we are Christ followers, our need is to change us for God's glory and his purpose. A transformation to center less on ourselves and more about the will of God. That is the solution to our problem. One person at a time, starting with you and me. You see, you still can't change the world, but you can change your world. So now what do we do with this newfound transformation? Love your neighbor. Because Paul writes in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29 through 30, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it might benefit those who listen." And if you're on the receiving end of that hate speech, no matter any medium, Paul adds in Colossians 4:6, "Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone." Hate is an evil, a product of sin whose nature has taken up residence in each of us. Our commitment to Christ must remain a priority over our sinful desire to paint others with hate. Rather, we must use the same brush the Lord uses to spread a message of love and forgiveness. Here's some encouragement for you. God judges the heart of his human creation. We do not have the right to degrade and disrespect another human creation, because that reflects a condition of the heart.
Thanks for taking a deeper dive with Communicating with Purpose Ministries. Discover more about CWP and how we can encourage your faith journey at www.cwp-now.com. Additionally, listen to Paul's Purposeful Pause podcast for more insights.